Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? I get a lot of people saying, how come Iraq's currency is not the same as Kuwait? Shouldn't it be just as valuable? It's not that simple. At one time, it was very close to the same exchange rate as the Kuwaiti dinar before Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. But things have changed since then. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that it can't get there again. It can, but there's a lot of hurdles that got to be crossed before they can get there. And I don't think they're going to get there anytime real soon. But you will see the dinar start to go up in increments as they get their ducks in a row. It seems like this administration is doing everything they can as quickly as possible to reach that level. So you never know. So we'll see where Iraq ends up. This video is going to show you Kuwait has been artificially the value of their currency on exchange rate for quite some time. And I'm going to tell you how they do it. At the same time, it will also teach you a little bit more about what people are looking at when it comes to currency's exchange rate and how it's determined, okay? Before we get started, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, check out our friends at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you are a first-time buyer and you spend more than $200, you will get an additional ½ ounce of silver with your order. Just follow the link down below in the description. No promo codes are needed. You can find me on other social media platforms like Facebook. I do have my own group called Pimpy's Investment Chat. Over here, we do talk about gold, silver, cryptocurrency, as well as foreign currency investments and any other investments you wish to talk about. Come on over here. It's free to join. Just follow the link down below in the description. I can be found on Twitter, MeWe, YouTube, Odyssey, and now Rumble. Yes, that's right. I finally got a Rumble. And in addition to that, you can find me over here at Pimpy's News Network. If I should ever get kicked off of YouTube, you can find me on any other one of these platforms. So come join me. It's free to do so. The links for all these locations are down below in the description. So come on over and join me. Right, so Al-Sadini just got back from being over there in Kurdistan. We know that he was over there ironing out the last of the details necessary for them to come up with an agreement on hydrocarbon laws. So I'm excited about that, but I'm more eager about them signing it so that we know that it's official. Now, Barzani and a high-level U.S. delegation stressed support for Sudanese government. So the delegation came here to talk to Barzani about making sure that the relationship with the federal government over in Iraq is going really good. They want to make sure that this thing gets ironed out, this agreement about the hydrocarbon law. In addition to that, you can see right here, it says during the meeting, they discussed the political and economic situation in Iraq and the Kurdistan region and exchanged views on the relations between Erbil and Baghdad and the problems in the relationship between them. He added that the American delegation reiterated the continued support and cooperation of the United States to Iraq and the Kurdistan region, noting that in regard to the internal situation in the Kurdistan region, the American delegation considered that the unity of the Kurdish political forces, foremost which is the Kurdish Democratic Parties and the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, is necessary to overcome the current challenges in Iraq and the Kurdistan region. So Kurdistan has the same issues that the federal government does. You have these different factions in there. Remember how we had the Sadr's movement versus the coordinated framework? Well, over there, they have two parties that bicker just as much. That is the Kurdistan Democratic Party and the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan. The same thing, they bump heads. So this high-level delegations, I guess, is going over there and talking about how important it is that they unite. So al-Shamari, the largest budget of 2023 in the history of Iraq. Baghdad and the South will win this. A reconstruction revolution. Yes, that's what we want to hear, but I don't want you to just talk about it. I want to see it happen. Because if they can make that happen, then we're going to be looking at a much more valuable Iraqi dinar. Al-Shamari said in a statement to the news, the 2023 budget is the first budget to move from budget of items to the budget of programs, adding that the 2023 budget is the largest in the history of Iraq and will achieve a qualitative leap in services. The government program distinguishes that it has established viable practical context and not ideal slogans, noting that the main title of this government is the National Service Government. Iraq played a pivotal role in restoring Iranian-Saudi relations, pointed out that the Iraq delegation that visited Washington put forward deep concepts and discussed transparency. Although it says transparently, it looks like transparency, and was described by the Americans as one of the most successful delegations that represented Iraq during the history of Iraq-American relations. So all this is good, but we need to really get them rocking and rolling, and it looks like it's finally going to start happening. Yay, infrastructure for Iraq. He said that the housing projects are one of the priorities of the work of the current government. They said that they had contracted with parent companies in the field of electricity without intermediates, a new system at a lower cost and a greater productivity, noting that the Sudanese prime minister works for more than 17 hours a day, and his administrative and leadership experience with political skill different from all previous prime ministers. Well, it appears that way, but you got to stop smuggling money over to Iran. So things are looking really good for Iraq. Again, they're getting all their ducks in a row, but we won't know a whole lot about where they're going to be until it actually starts. So the budget has to get passed first and foremost. As soon as that passes, then we go to the next step. All right, I thought you guys might enjoy this because it's very informative, all right? So let's listen and we'll chime in from time to time.
The Kuwaiti dinar is the national currency of the country of Kuwait, and currently it will cost you $3.28 to just get a single Kuwaiti dinar, making it the most valued currency in the world. Not only is it the most valued currency, but also one of the most consistent, as it has held this title for decades. Considering this, how was Kuwait able to create such a strong currency and maintain it for all this time? But before we jump into that, we have to first understand the different types of exchange rates, which are floating, fixed, and mixed. Floating exchange rates, like the name suggests, are linked to market activity. It is dependent on the GDP of a country, total money in circulation, exports, imports, government expenditure, unemployment rate, the stock market, and a multitude of other factors. None of these factors directly impact a country's currency exchange rate, but they all play a role in influencing the exchange rate. You see, exchange rates are based on a currency's supply and demand on the foreign exchange market, which is basically the stock market of currencies. When more investors want your currency because of all of the reasons that I just mentioned, your exchange rate will go up. And the exact opposite is true as well.
So, if you think about what this gentleman is saying, one of the biggest reasons why the exchange rate is so low for the Iraqi dinar is because there's not a lot of demand for it by investors. But once they start getting their ducks in a row, putting their electricity, building new buildings, infrastructure is taking place, making this more of a welcome for outside investors to come in, then we'll start to see outside investors demand the Iraqi dinar more and more as they see the same thing that we do, that the future in Iraq is looking really good and we expect them to get a lot more stronger.
When investors don't want your currency, your exchange rate will fall. The vast majority of countries in the world use this system, and fluctuations in a currency exchange rate are usually quite indicative of how much an investor wants a specific currency. For instance, the Venezuelan bolivar exchange rate has sunk into the ground as the country fights ever-increasing inflation. Evidently, currently, a Venezuelan bolivar is only worth less than 5% of what it was worth 1 year ago. Considering this, does this mean that Kuwait has one of the most sought-after currencies in the world? Well, this is simply not true, as they are one of the few countries that use a pegged exchange rate model. A pegged or fixed exchange rate is simply deriving a country's exchange rate based on another country's performance. And as a result, the success of a given currency is directly dependent upon the performance of another currency. For instance, I could create a currency right now and peg it to the US dollar, meaning I can determine the exchange rate. I can say that each unit in my currency is worth 5 US dollars. Of course, the value of my currency would fluctuate as the US dollar goes up and down. However, my currency will always be equivalent to 5 US dollars. But simply doing this doesn't mean anything, as people from other countries actually have to value your exchange rate and buy stuff from your country for it to actually be a valid currency. Otherwise, sure, you could have a high exchange rate, but it wouldn't have any validity. So, how is the Kuwaiti dinar able to build traffic for its currency? Well, as you may have already guessed, this is all possible due to Kuwait's rich oil reserves. In fact, 80% of the Kuwaiti government's revenue comes from petroleum-based products. This enables Kuwait to maintain a consistent source of traffic for its exports.
Take in consideration, 94% of its budget is covered by oil sales. They're saying Kuwait 80% is from oil sales. It almost appears to me that if we could just get Iraq to lower their dependency on the sale of oil, or to get down around 80%, who knows, maybe they'll be just as valuable as Kuwait.
On top of this, over the years, Kuwait has had to consistently update its currency in order to keep it at the top. Wanting to replace their old currency, the Gulf Rupee, the Kuwaiti Currency Board created a new currency called the Kuwaiti Dinar, and it was originally pegged to the British pound. But, as I said before, an issue with pegging currency is that your currency is only as strong as the currency you're pegged to, and in the late 1970s and early 1980s, the exchange rate of the pound plummeted. Anticipating this fall, Kuwait's currency board was quick to switch to a peg on a basket of currencies instead of just one. This allowed them to be less susceptible to fluctuations in the exchange rate of any one country. This system lasted all the way up to 2003, when Kuwait decided to peg the currency to the US dollar at an exchange rate of approximately 3 dinars for $1. But right before the subprime housing crisis, Kuwait reversed back to a basket of currencies, and that is what they are still using.
And that's what it is that Russia and China and Iraq and all them want to do. They want to peg their exchange rate to a basket of currency, including gold.
So, what does all of this mean? Well, not much really, as since their currency is pegged, their currency exchange rate has nothing to do with the strength of their economy. And this would be true even if it was a floating currency exchange rate, and a perfect example of this is the South Korean won. A single US dollar is equivalent to over 1100 South Korean won, but this doesn't indicate a weak currency, as the South Korean economy is one of the strongest in the world. This disproportionately low exchange rate can be explained by South Korea's avoidance of decimal values.
There's more than just the economy. The economy plays a huge part of it, but there's more to it than that. The stability of the country, the stability of your economy, the stability of your government. How safe is it there? Outside investor interest. I mean, there's a lot of things that are taken into consideration.
A single Korean won is basically a cent, as that is the smallest currency value in South Korea. It's like if the US stopped using the dollar and decided to calculate everything in cents. This would lead to a euro being equivalent to 109 cents as opposed to $1.09. As you can see, neither currency has gained or lost value, it's simply a different type of currency. Similarly, the Kuwaiti dinar's high comparative value doesn't mean anything, as goods are simply relatively priced in the country. So, in the end, Kuwait was able to create the highest valued currency in the world by simply using its oil revenue as an appeal for traffic and then pegging a currency against the most consistent currencies during a given time period. So, next time you see a highly valued currency, make sure not to assume that this means wealth and prosperity, as the value of a country's currency is a bad measure of a country's economic performance.
There's a lot of factors that go into determining the exchange rate. If Iraq is smart, they will peg their currency to a basket of currencies as they get away from the greenback dollars. This way it's a lot more stable, along with pegging it to gold is where it looks like a lot of countries are heading. Anyways, you guys let me know what you think. I look forward to comments, and I will get back at you later. I'm out.